Well, hello everyone. Welcome to this session, pull requests and how to conquer them. Before we start, I like to thank Copado and all our sponsors for making this day happen. And I also like to thank everyone who joined to this session. I hope you like it. I sure had a lot of fun preparing this talk for you all. Today, I'm your host for this session. My name is Tugce, and the number one question I get is, how do you pronounce my name? And it is pronounced like Tugce. However, anything you start with the letter T, I'll probably respond, so no worries. I am a Salesforce technical architect at Eduhub Solutions, and I've been working as a Salesforce developer since 2014. I have previously worked at Copado, both as senior Salesforce developer and later on as an implementation manager. I am also a Red Woman coach for the past 4 years. And today I will talk about pull requests and how to conquer them based on my personal experiences as a Salesforce developer and also my experiences based on my time as an implementation manager at Copado and seeing different organizations take on the pull request process. Our agenda for today is first starting with what is a pull request and how it helps you improve your DevOps lifecycle. Then we will go through different ways to implement them to your development and release lifecycle, and we'll explain some common pitfalls and the benefits of the pull requests. Let's start. What is a pull request? The pull request, also known as a merge request, is a great way to increase collaboration during the software development and or Salesforce development by showing the differences between the source and the target branches. At Copado, we use user stories, and with that, we know who developed the specific user story. And having pull request reviews in place allows people to have detailed information on the development and sharing the knowledge between team members. Now, this is important because per 2022 State of the Salesforce DevOps reports, there is a big difference between generic Salesforce development skills and specific knowledge about a particular implementation. And as the system expands in size and complexity, more and more knowledge is required to understand everything under the hood and how to improve it without the risk of failure. There is a good information from Salesforce Ben that people are learning that collaboration is a key part of the DevOps process, and the pull request can help you achieve it. Here is a simplified process of a pull request. And as you can see from here, it allows a platform for conversation to happen and improve overall quality in the work that is being delivered. The collaboration is the keyword here because not only it helps you check the differences between your source, your changes, versus the target environment, it also helps multiple people have insight on a specific implementation. Now, we talked about what is a pull request and how it is a tool for collaboration and how important collaboration is for the DevOps lifecycle. But where does it fit in your development and deployment lifecycle, and what are some best practices? First, having the pull request review at least before deploying to the UAT environment, also known as the user acceptance testing environment. At DevOps, there is a term called shifting left, and it means moving quality gates as close to the beginning of the cycle as possible. But let's be honest here. that pull request reviews introduces an additional step into your DevOps lifecycle, and it will take extra time and effort. However, having it at least before deploying to UAT is a good rule of thumb, but if you can do it even earlier, that will be great. Another best practice is having the pull request reviews mandatory for a subset of metadata, like code components, Apex, Visualforce, Aura, Lightning Web Components, etc. And also some Salesforce specific metadata like profiles, permission sets, layouts. While having the pull request review process mandatory for all changes is great and something that everyone should strive for, some Salesforce metadata is really hard to understand in text form, like flows, because these files are ultimately XML, and understanding XML formats of flows are really hard, especially if the change is big. And also, it is important to remember having this pull request review process in place means extra effort and time from another team member. Automated static code analysis tool. This is a very important point, and it is a really great way to make pull request review process more efficient is having an analyzer in place. And it can be an open source tool like PMD, or it can be other tools like SonarQube, even Salesforce Code Analyzer, or something more specific to Salesforce like Clayton. We mentioned that having the pull request review means extra time and effort from another team member. And as Morpheus says here, what if I told you that you need to use static code analysis? Because with the static analyzers and having them run on the pull request reviews, it means your team members don't need to check stuff that can be done by the machines, like best practices, security rules, styling enforcements. And this all can be commented by the automated tool, and your team member can focus on the overall solution instead of these rules. And another thing here is, as we are humans, it might be hard to remember all the best practices while we are reviewing a change. With the automatic analyzers, we can offload this mental work to a tool that can run automatically. Mandatory approvers. This is another best practice that there should be at least 1 or 2 mandatory approvers per pull request, but it's also important to rotate these people in the team, because what I see in real world scenarios, the reviews usually falls to the most senior person of the team or the team lead or some designated person. However, this does not have to be true. With an analysis tool aiding, other team members should be also in the process to not have a bottleneck, having a single person reviewing the pull request, and also sharing the knowledge among the team. Automated deployments. So as you may know, using Copado, you can have processes in place that user story if it's been reviewed or approved. And while you can implement these webhooks using Copado, you can also automate your deployments per your pull request review status. Normally, I'm not the one to support automated deployments just for the sake of it. However, pull request reviews are a really good step to implement these automated deployments in your DevOps lifecycle. Explanation in the PR description. Normally, when you open a pull request from Copado, the title of the pull request will have the user story number and probably the title. And while this is great, it is also important to add implementation details in your pull request description so the reviewer can have an easier time about your certain design choices. And also adding a link to your user story and or deployment makes their job easier as they can directly navigate to the user story. And one other important thing here is having details in your pull request is also a way of documenting changes, and documentation always helps, whether you know it or not. Maybe 6 months from now or 2 years from now, someone will be thankful to you. That can be yourself or another team member. And be your first approver as the owner of the pull request. One of my most favorite part of the pull request process for me that it gives me, the pull request owner, a chance to see all the changes I introduced to the code base and gives me the ability to look at it from an outside perspective for the first time. It is really easy to lose perspective whether you're working on a feature or fixing a bug. But with the being your first approver, meaning that you open your PR and check the differences yourself first, it gives you a chance to find issues before assigning approvers to the pull request, or maybe give yourself a high five for a job well done, because that's also a good thing. If you did a good job, why not congratulate yourself first by checking your pull request and being proud of yourself. Now, we went through what are pull requests and what are some best practices to implement them into your development and deployment lifecycle. How do we use them at Copado? With Copado, there are multiple options to add pull requests into your process. And one thing to note here is the actual process, the pull request happens in your Git environment, whether this is GitHub, Bitbucket, Azure, or GitLab, or the other tools that I probably don't know myself. However, Copado can help you opening the pull request from the right places, or have tools in place like webhooks to add information from pull requests happening outside of your Copado environment to directly into your Copado implementation. Let's see how we can do pull requests at Copado. The first one is, of course, the pull request on a user story. This is a really great way to introduce pull request review into your process. It allows finer control on what is being deployed, and your quality gates run per user story basis. However, it will be also additional time per user story deployment. One important thing to note here is that when you open a pull request from the user story, the default way it opens, the PR will be between production version versus the user story. So the changes that you're going to see on the pull request will be the version of production versus what you did in the user story. It's always important to keep in mind that part. The second option is the pull request on deployments. As you may know, when you're deploying with Copado, first a promotion record gets created, and then a deployment record per promotion, and the deployment is being made from the promotion branch. Having pull requests on deployment is great because you can review your current deployment against your target environment. And you can run your quality gates like a static analysis tool on this deployment and catch issues before doing the deployment itself. However, there is a big issue, and I mean it is big, because depending of your the size of your deployment, the pull request might be big and review might take time. But why not write an automated tool on it while you're at it? A third one is pull requests between user stories. This is a really not a very well-known feature of Copado, and it is not something that should be in your day-to-day life cycle. However, it's a really nice to have tool and something that you should be able to utilize while you need it, when you need it. The pull requests between user stories are useful when you have conflicted metadata between different stories, and it allows you to check the changes based on the versions of these two user stories. So it allows you to create an environment where you can review and come up with better quality solutions. This is probably a very known issue for developers, that multiple people changes the same class, and then you're not sure how to merge it correctly during deployment time. So moving this process before the deployment time gives you more time and more clarity for what the solution be in the end. Now let's go through the common pitfalls. I see there is a question. I'll address it after the remaining slides. So we explain how-tos, but what are the common scenarios or issues that arise from not following those? By the way, these common pitfalls happens to everyone, and I mean everyone. That's why they're so common. And it's really hard to not fall into them, especially when you don't have time. But let's see. The first one is the destructive criticism. This one is really important, but here is a real good comic. My favorite on the topic actually is that the pull request reviews are all about balance. That you need to let go of your ego, try to clear your mind, and it is an art in the end. And having an automated tool helping, you don't need to enforce the styling guidelines, the best practices, or the security rules, because they will be already commented by those tools, and you can focus on the actual solution. And one thing to remember is, of course, there is a person on the other end of that pull request, and the comments that you will write might affect them more than you thought. The long review cycles. So we mentioned that having a single person, especially on a designated reviewer, it might cause them to have a lot of PRs to review at once. And with their other workload, they might not give enough priority to the pull request. And it's okay. We all have other jobs with priorities, and usually review is not something that is very visible as your other tasks probably. But it's good to do reviews once per day to clear your queue and not to keep the pull request pending, because the more they wait, the more your end users will be waiting for these features. And it's important to clear the reviews. Another common pitfall is the big pull requests. And I mean, we all done it. And there's a funny saying in software development community: for 10 lines of code change, there will be 20 comments in the pull request review. And for 500 lines of change, it will be approved and will be said, looks good. And it's because reviewing a big pull request really takes a lot of mental effort and time. So trying to keep your PRs as as small as possible is always helpful, because the review takes time, then you wait more, and criticism might not be as constructive as it should be, or some big ticket items might slip through the cracks because it will be really hard to judge from a big change. Not having this static analysis in place. So if you're doing the pull request review and not having a static analyzer in place, is really not a good way to go, because why not use it? There are free options to go from, or there are paid options too. And even the smaller analyzer will help you tremendously, because it will reduce the mental load from the reviewer by taking care of the best practices, security rules, and styling guidelines. So it's a really important part that I see most people not implement them, and they are missing out from the benefits of having it in place. And another common pitfall is using the pull request as a way to tackle technical debt. What do I mean by that? We probably all done it. There's a pull request and you're the reviewer, and there's something wrong. However, that change is not in the pull request itself. It's a previous issue, but you saw it. It's let's say a null pointer exception waiting to happen. And you comment, well, you are changing this class. Can you also change this? Well, that's okay for sometimes. It's important to remember the pull request is based on the deployment or the user story it is, and adding other stuff will add more time on testing, because if you're not 100% sure the change won't affect actual feature, you should not touch other stuff that are not part of the pull request for the sake of fixing it while you're at it. Having a gatekeeper. So single reviewer / gatekeeper is something that should be avoided. And it's not just because to give more responsibility to the senior person in your team, or they're drowning in other job. It's also, it is a platform for other team members to contribute and learn. And even your newest team members can give you different perspectives on solutions you're having. And pull requests are also a way to learn as a team. And if you keep the reviewer for the same people, you're going to have a fixed perspective. And in the end, the knowledge will be on that senior team member that everyone will need to depend on. Creating bureaucracy. As management, if there are people from management in this call or session, I'm sure you had to implement some rules for the team, because sometimes you need to do what's not well liked, however, is needed for your team. But the pull request is a collaborative environment, and it's important to decide on the rules and the review process itself as a team, and not impose something from top down. With team having more say into the whole pull request process, which rules to decide to be blocker, which rules to decide as non-blocker, it will be adopted more, and it won't affect your team morale that way. And the benefits. To be honest, benefits of the pull request reviews cannot be overstated. However, I'll try to talk about a few of them. With the pull requests, you will have better quality changes, because the solutions will go through hopefully with a static analyzer, and also other team members' perspective. So you have more eyes looking at the change with reduced risk on the new changes, to reduce risk of new bugs being shipped to the higher environments. And with the pull request, it will increase the particular implementation knowledge in the team. And as we mentioned in the beginning, it is really important to have that particular implementation knowledge in the team, because usually that falls onto the person who developed the feature or to the team who developed the feature, but not the wider audience. With the pull request environment, you can have a good way to collaborate and increase the knowledge of how particular things are implemented. And the last one, and is my favorite again, the improving team capabilities. As a person who opened pull requests myself before and who reviewed them as well, I learned so much from reading other people's code or having their feedback on the code I wrote. Because development, whether it be a flow or code, is a very personal thing, a very personal train of thoughts, and you can see the other people's train of thoughts and learn from it a lot. And that is all I wanted to share today. I hope you liked it. I am going to check the question that we had. There is a comment that there is no option to automate the deployment when I open a PR through the promotion. That is true. There is no out-of-the-box thing. However, with different tools that Copilot offers and Salesforce also offers, it can be implemented to trigger the deployment after the PR is approved, for example. And this is funny because it also requires specific Copilot implementation knowledge. And for myself, I know it because I was a Salesforce developer at Copilot and I implemented Copilot. So I do have that specific implementation knowledge, but it can definitely be done. And you can reach out to me and we can have a conversation on how to automate deployment for the pull requests open from deployments with Copilot. Any other questions? Am I missing something? Let me take a quick look. I think there are none so far. I would like to thank everyone who joined the session. I hope you find it useful. And if you have any questions regarding pull requests or Copilot or anything I can help in general, let me know. I'd be more than happy to help. And thank you.